T-minus 30 seconds. T-minus 20 seconds. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
What's up, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Kush's Corner here on the Trap Talk Reptile Network, the coolest reptile network in the world. Tonight, I'm joined by Chaz Ewing of More Than Morelia. He works with a ton of different species that I am personally fascinated with, and I know many of you are as well. Primarily, tonight we're going to be focusing on some of his Colubrid projects, probably getting into some of the Australian pythons as well. But before we jump into the episode, as always, USARC. So USARC is the organization that is fighting for our rights to keep our reptiles, to run our reptile businesses, to live this lifestyle. Check out usarc.org for all of the information you need to know about the organization. There you can also find alerts on new legislation introduced either at local or federal levels. And there you can also look into becoming a member of USARC. The strength in numbers we have as a community is very important for our success in battling these legislations. So the more members there are of USARC, the better. Again, check out usarc.org. All right, everybody, thank you for tuning in. We are a little bit early tonight, which is not an issue for me. Huge shout out to the Indiana Pacers. Hopefully they take game one of the Eastern Conference Finals tonight. I'll be watching that for sure. If you're here on YouTube, please subscribe to the channel. A new podcast drops every single day of the week from some of the absolute best hosts in the game, talking about a wide variety of topics within the reptile industry. So if you are looking for reptile-related podcast content, you have found the right place. We are also on the audio streaming platforms, be it Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts from. A subscribe, a follow, a 5-star review on those platforms would be most appreciated as well. But with all that housekeeping out of the way, let's bring Chaz onto the show. Hey, man, how's it going? Thank you for joining me today.
What's up, man? How are you?
Doing all right. Doing all right. Definitely just glad to be through the day and onto the podcast now. So
I hear that.
Yep. So for anyone who is watching or listening and may not be familiar with you or your work, kind of give us a rundown of your life and times in herpetoculture.
So let me move this down just a hair. I've been in this for as long as I can remember as far as keeping reptiles. I think I was probably like maybe 6 when I started really having a fascination with like all the different anoles and stuff I would find in my backyard. And I was thinking about this recently because I'd done a podcast with Joe, and you go through and talk about your beginnings.
Yeah.
And I used to fish a lot as a kid. So I,
Okay.
saw all sorts of, down in South Florida, all sorts of iguanas and turtles and water snakes. And I think that's probably where I really started getting a fascination, like where I was kind of immersed in those animals.
Sure.
I grew up in a pretty packed neighborhood full of houses. So there wasn't, too much running around the initial neighborhood, but all those animals kind of felt at home around those different ponds and stuff that are in those residential areas, opposed to like just in my backyard. Kind of as I started getting into my early teens, maybe 14, 15, started catching and keeping more stuff that I find around.
Okay.
The neighbors would figure out that I liked animals, and they'd be like, oh, I have this aquarium that you might want, or I have this old bearded dragon cage that you might want. And I started catching water snakes and Cuban night anoles and iguanas. And like really anything that I could get my hands on, and keeping them for a period of time before I would let them back go. Probably around the age of 15, got into crested geckos, which was really my first go at like more exotic captive born and bred stuff.
Yeah.
And I actually still have that original crested gecko that I bought. He's like,
oh wow, that's awesome.
He's like, gotta be like 17 years old now. Because I got him as an adult. So who really knows how old the guy is? Did crested geckos for probably 5 or 6 years, and then ended up going on a 3-month trip to southern Patagonia and like the Chile region of it. Yeah. And nobody was going to take care of all my geckos while I was gone for 9 days. So got rid of most of them. And then I moved out shortly after I got home from that trip, and bought a Brettles python, which was my first kind of go at snakes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how old were you by this time?
This wasn't that long ago. I've had that Brettles python for maybe 6 years now, 5 years now, something around that. No, probably a little bit more than 6 years now I've had him. Okay.
So you kind of, once you got wheels on the ground, you kind of took off running, huh?
Oh yeah. I had some other projects for shorter periods of time before the Brettles python. I tried a Bronia for a little bit. And a little different than crested geckos. They weren't necessarily my favorite animals to keep. That's why I don't think, like, they just didn't really speak to me. I definitely thought they were beautiful and whatnot.
Sure.
But not necessarily an animal to handle. They were not sourced very responsibly. I later found out, and they were they were never out. They were in a cork tube or something, and I had a bunch of expensive enclosures with cork in them and plants. Which was not what I was looking for.
Sure.
Pretty shortly after the Brettles python, maybe 2 years after that, I got some coastal carpets.
Okay.
And then I caught the colubrid addiction and figured out that blue beauty rats exists, and bought one of those at a show. And I was sitting in my hotel room. That was on like a Saturday, and I was like, man, I'm going back tomorrow and getting a mate for this thing. And that's where it all started going downhill.
Yeah, man, it's so hard not to get just fully engulfed in the colubrid thing. I don't know. I struggle all the time where I'm looking around in my collection and I'm like, I don't know, what if I had like a pair of like 50 different colubrid species? Like, that would make me pretty happy.
And even though like if we're talking about like Asian stuff or North American stuff, like you can really design a collection where the care is super similar, but the snakes are not that similar.
Right.
Like when you have talking about my collection, like blue beauties and rhino rats and Japanese rats and the Janseni, like these are all very different snakes, but I can, manage the collection the same way. So like, then stuff starts getting really fun. Because like the workload is a whole lot less as far as giving individualized care to so many different species, because it's like basically all the same. Same if you're keeping like, a bunch of Australian pythons. Minus a couple of them that might not fit.
Brettles, diamonds, etc.
Yeah, exactly. But like my Brettles pythons are in here in the colubrid room.
Yeah.
Like,
for sure.
The they're sitting at like a 78, 80 degree ambient, and they want to get warm, they go under their heat.
Yeah.
Still, since the room isn't full of pythons, like this room still stays nice and cool.
Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah, that's that's definitely something that I want to get into about the room, is that you know, I recently did an episode where I was just like ranting to myself like a psychopath about just like hard lessons I've learned. And
Yeah.
one was kind of like getting stuff first and then designing the room later, instead of doing it the opposite way, to where you know, you're fitting species into that room that fall into those care parameters. Like the
Right.
example that I use is that I got some Madagascar tree boas
Right.
without having full knowledge of their true environment and the kind of temperatures that they need to thrive. And I had them in like a you know, 80 to 82 ambient python room.
Mhm.
And it took until after I had even moved those to fund a different project where I was like, oh wow, I was going to fail with those forever no matter what. Like I feel stupid. So what was the process like of getting your room dialed into where you want it to be for the species that you are working with now?
So I've only been in this location for about 18 months now, so I'm still definitely learning it. Going into this second summer. Last summer definitely had some warm days, which the Asian stuff tolerates. I've found if you have a decent amount of air movement, so it's like really, really just blasting the fans through the room on those hot days.
Sure.
And then over winter was, you know, a whole different challenge because I brumated probably 3/4 of the collection. But some of the stuff I was still trying to get to produce, and some of the stuff I didn't want to get as cold, or I wanted to keep up because I was still growing it, and I didn't want to lose that that 3 to 4 months that it would have been in brumation.
Yeah, sure.
So I definitely had to adapt a little bit and kind of had space heaters in different areas of the house that I wanted to keep cooler. It was like my complaint was this room is way too hot and this room is way too cold, which was like which was crazy, and I couldn't switch it because it wouldn't have worked how I wanted it to.
Yeah. No, I definitely get that. Do you have multiple rooms where you have your collection? Do you have like a main room and then?
The room that I'm in now is the main room, but I honestly have animals in every room in the house.
Hey, I know the feeling. This is like one of 5. So
yeah, I've got this is like a third bedroom. I just moved the last snakes out of my kid's bedroom actually and replaced it with a fish tank.
Nice.
But then like half my living room is snakes. And I have cages in my dining room.
Yeah. So then do you have them placed room to room specific to the climate, or was it kind of balancing like where you needed to have space for stuff and then what kind of fit in those parameters? So
I don't have that many carbon pythons if we're talking about Australian stuff. It's all carpets besides the Brettles. The Brettles are in this room, and then the coastals are in the living room, which I run LED and T5 lights in those cages, so it just brings the ambient in those cages up specifically.
Sure.
Like the cool end of the cage is naturally where they're sitting right now, like 81, 82 degrees. And then they have like a 88 degree hot spot. And then I have some poplin carpets in quarantine in my bedroom. So I definitely have found that using some of those higher heat producing lights definitely help bring that ambient up when you're running in a cooler room, because obviously I don't want my kitchen or living room to be 80 degree ambient, but especially in a PVC cage, like you just click those lights on and the cool end of that cage goes right up.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. That's actually like exactly how my house is right now, down in like the living room, dining room where there's some animals. It's like peak of the day right now is probably 82 degrees ambient there. Just purely because I don't want to spend $600 a month on air conditioning.
Yeah, about
And
that.
the snakes, they don't mind either. So
Right.
yeah. So then your main area right now that you're in, what are the temperature parameters that you run in there? I guess let's look at it year round, but like start with right now.
Right now, I'm shooting for like a 78-degree ambient. That's my
Okay.
goal. I think we're at 77 degrees. 40.
Day and night, or do you drop it a little bit more at night?
It drops down to probably 73 right now.
Got it.
But basically, the cage stack behind me will completely turn off. But in front of me, there's a like 80 series ARS rack.
Okay.
Has some of my North American stuff in it, and I'll just adjust the thermostat. I think it's at like 78, just to keep those guys a little bit warmer.
Okay.
Yeah, in the evening. But for the most part, it's like 73 at night, and I would say 77 to right now going into summer, 79, 80. I'm really trying to keep it from getting above 80.
Sure. Yeah, that makes sense. So are you brumating in place in that room, or do you take your snakes elsewhere for brumation?
So this past year, I brumated all the Colubrids in like 16 quart latching totes.
Okay.
In my bedroom closet because it has a window. And my girlfriend graciously braved the freezing temperatures every time she wanted to get dressed in the morning. But I did just get this ARS rack, which freed up some 28 quart PVC racks. And I plan to put those PVC racks on thermostats. Not exactly sure how I'm going to do it yet. I thought about like getting a grow tent and like slamming it up against an exterior wall and popping the window and just running some Govee alarms in there or things like that, so I can kind of keep track of what's going on. Especially since I'm going to have more things going into brumation this year. Like the closet was pretty packed and it was kind of a pain. But just one of those things I've got to deal with.
Yeah, no, most certainly. Yeah, I think that's always kind of the, with a colubrid breeder, especially one who is not in the north, is figuring out exactly the best case scenario for your space that you're in to get those animals down as cool as they need to be. So
right. I mean, I unfortunately don't have a garage, but that would be like the most ideal.
Sure.
And it just gets too, like, even though I'm in North Georgia, like we're still seeing, 10, 15 degrees outside.
Yeah, for sure.
I had thought about like maybe doing like a grow tent, like on the back porch or something, with like a heater or even the racks on thermostats or something like that. It seems awfully risky.
Yeah, for sure. So what temperature are you shooting for with your brumation?
I think I did everything at 55 this past year. Did 55 for, it was about 10 consecutive weeks. For I think 15 or 16 weeks total. They were for.
All right. So I guess then on the 2 to 3 weeks on either side, were you slowly ramping down those temperatures then?
Right. Okay. I started a little early, and I got into this situation where I was like, yes, it's cold outside, and then it was like 80 degrees out, so all the snakes were like freaking out inside the tubs. And I was like going back and forth whether I was going to like put them back in their cages or whatnot. But thankfully, it ended up cooling back down pretty quickly.
Okay, that's good.
So I didn't have to do that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I stopped feeding. Would have been Thanksgiving.
Okay.
Whatever the classic schedule
Yeah.
that you always hear everybody say. And then I think
Sure.
by Halloween, they were pretty cleaned out.
Okay.
If I've got those dates right. It was like 30 days since the last feeding. I just waited until there was no poop left in the enclosure. I was like, okay, you're good. Which with
Yeah.
Colubrids, it's pretty easy when they don't poop for a couple of days. It's like, great, no more's coming.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then from there, everything that was on a thermostat, which was not very much stuff at that time, I just killed the thermostat. So at that point, they went from being at like 78, 80 degrees down to like a pretty consistent 74.
Okay.
And at about at that same time, this would be like, nearing beginning November, mid-November, cut the light cycle down like as low as I could get it, which is nice when you're blocking your whole window. It's easier to cut the light cycle.
Very true.
Pretty standard Colubrid brumation. Went for like I said, 10 or 12 weeks inside those tubs, and then warmed them back up. I want to say beginning of February or so.
Okay.
I think it was February 15th. I think I started pulling stuff out.
Okay. And then how do you acclimate them back to their normal temperatures?
It's really nice with the pretty much everything in here is on herb stats.
Okay.
So I did like long ramp ups throughout the day where like every day they would get to their top temperature, but it was over the course of a 6 hours or so.
Okay. Got it.
Yeah. I mean, we're talking about I guess if we're looking at it as far as coming out of brumation, my temperatures were already warming up anyways. So they were like in those tubs, and it was like, okay, it's 55 degrees today. Now the next week it's 60. And I have an AC vent in that closet, which was putting out or trying to put out heat at the time. So I just opened that vent up, and it was like, okay, now we're back to
nice.
Back to 70s. I tried to get everything back in the enclosure as soon as possible, because even something like rhino rat snakes, I swear those things will cruise around the tub if it's 40 degrees out. Like they don't even care.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It's cold, but I'm still moving and grooving.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it definitely makes sense. So do you only brumate your adult animals, or do you put some of the younger ones through some cycles years before you're going to attempt to breed them?
I haven't been at this super long. So
Okay.
this was only the third year that I brumated for.
Okay.
And in the past, I have not brumated the smaller stuff. I've definitely thought about it if I can get into a situation where I'm not like say it was this room that I was in now, and I was just going to cool this whole room, which I could absolutely do if I wasn't at the time trying to breed stuff over winter. Like I have some cave dwelling rat snakes that are on loan from a friend of mine, and those laid on Christmas Day in this room. Yeah. So, but I was actively trying to breed those.
Sure.
So this room was still 73 degrees ish. Yeah, I had some other things in here that I guess I could have brumated. I had a king rat snake. But I also had some things like the Janseni were in here, and red-tailed green rat snakes. So things that I wouldn't brumate to start with. Can I go?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that definitely makes sense. So, so I guess since you mentioned it on the cave racers, is that was that like kind of surprising that they cycled that time of year, or is that what you were expecting with them?
Yeah, we were. They had laid a, let's see, a March or April clutch in 2024, and we were really trying to get a double clutch or a second clutch out
Okay.
of them. And it was like mid-December. I looked in there one day and I was like, "Oh, you are definitely full of eggs."
Yeah.
Uh, it was like December 15th. She pre-laid or something, and then laid on Christmas morning.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's crazy. Hmm. Very interesting. Cool. Well, I want to get into some of the species a little bit more in depth.
yeah.
I want to start with the Gonyosoma. The your Janseni are what really like drew my eye to your page, and I was like, oh my gosh, like these snakes are ridiculous. Like I've always liked Janseni. I didn't know they could look like what yours look like.
They're pretty
Uh,
nuts, man.
yeah. So did you just get super lucky? Is that a locality thing? Like, what are those super crazy, vibrant, ridiculous looking Janseni? What's the deal with them?
Man, if you so the green one to start with, the one that laid eggs for me. I have not seen another one that looks like that. Not
Mm,
to that extent of green. Usually you see like the black and silver is pretty common,
yeah.
or like a black and brown is a pretty classic uh, look for them. But if you go on like INAT, not that there's a ton of pictures, uh, they are decently variable. I actually when I was first looking at them, I hadn't owned any yet. There was a pure white one that I think it was Fascination Herps brought in.
Okay.
It was posted on one of those other, like, wasn't on Fauna, wasn't on Morph Market, wasn't on King Snake. I can't remember the
Mm.
name of the site, but I think it's linked in their bio, because I guess that's where they sell most of their
Oh
stuff.
yeah, it's like Reptiverse something or other.
Yeah,
I,
yeah,
yeah,
that's
yeah.
what it is. Uh, but I mean, it was like we would call it a snow. Like it was a
Wow.
completely white Janseni. I've
Did it have
never
no black tail?
no black tail at all. It was completely white, and it wasn't a
Sweet.
wasn't a red tail green rat. And they had other Janseni listed with it
Okay.
that were black and gray, black and brown. Uh, I've actually been meaning to send them a message and be like, "Yo, do you still have this picture?" Just because I want to show people, because like nobody believes me.
Yeah.
But it was like we would call it a snow.
Huh.
I think.
Yeah. I mean, shoot, it sure sounds like it. Wow, I'm surprised I haven't seen that picture before. That's crazy.
Yeah, I mean it's like a juvenile animal, and it's like one single sales picture uh, that they have. So I'm hoping they still have it saved. I was thinking about it the other day actually, and I definitely need to go find it. Uh,
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I had the picture saved on an old phone that wasn't backed up to like iCloud or anything, so it is
Mm,
gone on my end.
yeah. Wow, that's really cool.
Yeah, but
Um,
a pretty variable snake, which is why I think it'll be really cool in a couple of years to see what comes, especially from like these eggs of mine. Like if I can get them to hatch, if this green is something that'll be carried on, especially mixed in with this silver and black male that I bred her to.
yeah, that'll be really cool. So, what was the condition in which you acquired some of your animals? Were they? I'm assuming that most of them, if not all of them, are wild caught.
Yeah, they all are.
And did you shoot to acquire them at younger ages, or just kind of got what you could? Like, what was the condition like when they came in to you?
The first one that I got was maybe, I'm gonna say 6 or 8 months old.
Okay, pretty
That's
young.
like, yeah. Snakes at Sunset had posted it like randomly one day on Morph Market, and I like called them like a maniac. They were probably like, "What the heck is wrong with this guy?" I was like, "Tell me how to pay you." And they had actually told me the snake was sold to somebody else,
Oh, damn.
and evidently it was sold to me. Yeah, that ended up being a female. She's
Okay.
like 4.5 right now, so hopefully going to be running her next season.
Cool.
But for the most part, I haven't seen any small animals come in.
Yeah.
Like you'll see red-tailed green rats come in where they're like 24 inches long.
Yeah.
But pretty much all the Janseni that I see are like 5-6 foot adults.
Okay. All right. I kind of expected them to be a little bit larger than I've never worked with Janseni. I've interact with a handful of them. That's interesting. I kind of thought they would be more in like the 7 to 8 range, but maybe I'm just.
I have one female that's probably 7 feet, and
Okay.
I'm sure they can get bigger than that.
Sure.
Mine are the only ones that I've seen like in person. Like I've never seen anybody else's collection of them in person. But I mean, they'll shed a skin. Some of these I've seen pictures where they're like, "Oh, you've got 9-foot ceilings, and this shed is touching the ceiling and a foot on the floor."
Yeah.
So that would lead me to believe, they can definitely hit 8 foot.
Yeah, absolutely. So when you were getting these imported animals, what was your process of establishing them in your collection?
So the Janseni were the first imports that I had ever worked with. And,
Okay.
I had heard all the crazy horror stories. So I honestly, when I bought them with the anticipation that they were going to teach me some hard lessons pretty quick.
Yeah.
And not that they were necessarily easy, but I think it was drilled into my mind pretty early on that I just needed to get them, like check them over once they came in, and just serve the bare basic needs of them, and just leave them the heck alone.
Yeah.
I think that's probably the biggest thing with Janseni specifically is the second you start getting them to do the threat display behaviors, like they are unhappy. So if like I'm working with an import or whatnot, and I pick the hide up and that thing immediately goes into open mouth gaping and throat puffing, it's like, okay, hide is back down. There's no major poops that need to be dealt with, because they have the same with the red-tailed green rats. They seem to not do very well with large loads of bacteria on their skin, I have found personally. So if they're like sitting under a hide or something with a big runny poop, just like eating a chick or something, like that'll cause you just as many problems as any other ones.
Okay.
Respiratory stuff. So I definitely try to clean that stuff as often as I can, but I'll kind of do like, if I'm quarantining in a tub, I'll kind of like try to scoot the hide forward with the snake in it. So it's like, okay, let me just clean up the mess you've made, and then I'll lightly scoot you back.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense.
I usually go like, quarantine for me looks like 3 months minimum, but like to establish, I think any Gonyosoma, like you're probably looking at a year.
Sure.
To the point where that animal is like, okay, you can start feeling like you can pull the animal out, handle it. It can threat display, open mouth, striking at you, whatnot, and the thing is not just going to drop dead the next day. They might.
Yeah.
They might.
Yeah, sure.
But usually at that point, they've gotten enough hydration in them. They've gotten enough strength back from importation, especially if you have an animal that's feeding consistently and whatnot. Like, I would say after like 9 or 12 months, you should be in a position where you can start playing with the animal a little bit more, if you will.
Yeah. So, what are the specifics of the quarantine setup? What like, I'm assuming you're using tubs. Like, what style? How large are you going? You going paper, bedding? How exactly is your quarantine setup looking?
To start, I usually start everything on cypress mulch. That's the substrate of choice over here. There's a local company that makes like a nice fine ground, so I'm not like stuck with like no float or something that has like these huge pieces. This is more like chipped than like some of that more fragmented bedding. So that's what I go for, because I like it to be able to hold a little bit of humidity in it, especially if I want to like spray the tub down really good. But I don't want a substrate that stays saturated for too long. So I don't really like a Repti chip or a like COCO substrate.
Yeah.
Then I'll usually do just like standard black Reptile Basics hide in the back of the tub, usually a bigger one in the back of the tub over the heat tape. And then I'll sometimes do a secondary one in front of that into water.
Okay.
I have found that keeping it simple with those guys is the way to go, especially when you want to clean quickly. They definitely like to poop a lot, so opposed to like putting like pork in there or plants, which they're dark tubs anyway, so I don't think they're going to get much benefit from.
Yeah.
I would rather be able to keep a slightly more sterile environment and speed up the process of being able to clean it. The other thing that I don't like about paper when quarantining the Gonyosoma is you have to pull the animal out to clean it, opposed to like if they just like poop in the front corner or something, or even the back corner. It's easier to just pick that hide up, an inch, and scoot that animal forward, especially on a cypress mulch substrate. It slides easily. They just scoot you forward, clean up your mess, scoot you back, and then I don't have to touch the animal at all. Sure.
During that establishment period, do you think that visual stimulation is particularly stressful for them?
Yeah. I definitely I don't want to see any defensive behaviors for them at all. I want them to be like if there was a way for them to not even see me, I think that would be best. To be honest with you, I have a friend that uses like bath towels during quarantine, and he just like throws a towel over the thing, just over the snake.
Yeah,
cover you up, do what I got to do while I'm in there, and then move on.
Okay.
I also quarantine, like I said earlier, in the bedroom. So I have a 70 series rack in there, and that would be that's like the ideal setup for me. Especially, I have 2 cats, I have 2 kids, and I don't want those snakes seeing anything.
Yeah, sure, that makes sense. So, what are your parasite treatment protocols? Internal or external? Because from my understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, Gonyosoma are one of the more notorious colubrids for coming in with some problematic things coming along with them.
Yeah, to be honest, I've only treated the second one that I got, the girl that laid.
Okay.
Her name is Clover. It's like one of the only named snakes that I have, but I figure I got to give her a name because she laid special eggs. pretty early on, she was just having just some really, really nasty poops. Like it was just like,
Yeah.
like even as far as like colubrids go, like it was like very
Sure.
mucusy. You know, it was just like getting all over the place. And I think I hit her with like 3 doses of Panicure and
Okay.
never touched her again. And the rest of them I have not treated at all.
Okay.
Yeah. It's kind of 50-50 right now on whether or not people are treating them. Either, you know, if they're not getting treated by the person that imported them, I personally think it's better to just leave them alone, because whatever they had, they most likely had when they were, you know, out in their little tree, you know,
Sure.
in Sulawesi. And as long as those parasites, I guess that's what we're going to call them, or worms, aren't affecting them in my care, then I say just leave them alone, personally.
Yeah.
There's definitely animals, you know, that go through a rough import and you need to take action right away. But that's also a double-edged sword, because you're gonna go against all the things that I just said I tried to do in quarantine, which is, you know, neck this animal and then shove a syringe down its throat, or, you know, give it injections. And that's got to be as stressful, or if not more stressful, than the whole importation process was. Whereas if you just left the animal alone and got it back into its state of being, you know, a little more calm and collected, maybe it can just work through its own issues.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. No, I think it's definitely a fascinating conversation as to protocols with imports across the board. You know, people will be in the treat right away camp. People will be in the never treat. And I think there's good arguments on both sides of the issue.
Right.
But I think just for there to be, you know, voices out there giving some pushback to like shotgun treat everything right away. It's like, hold on a second. Like, think about what you're doing to the animal so quickly as it's still adjusting to stuff.
Right. I also, like, you got to think of what some of those medications, like say the animal came in with like light respiratory symptoms, like to give a fresh imported animal something like Baytril, like treat an RI that's like super hard on their kidneys, super hard on their whole body, and then like you want this animal to rehydrate.
Yeah.
Like I would rather put it on some dry bedding and crank the temperatures up to like the higher end of its range, and keep that thing clean, and see if I can get those respiratory symptoms to subside. And if I was going to treat for something like an RI, I would probably feed smaller meals like as often as I could with the Baytril in the food.
Yeah. No, it definitely makes sense. So what about for external parasites? Did you have to deal with any sort of issues with like mites or ticks when they were first coming to you?
No, I had one animal that was wild caught, but spent some time in a pet store that had some mites when it came in. But I'm on the NexGard treatment now, and it's no worries. Your first meal, you get treated with NexGard, and there is absolutely no worry about a mite. For 30 days is actually the minimum. When they the study that I read, they did blood draws, I think at 12 hours, 24 hours, 7 days, 14 days, and a month. And the medication was still very active at 30 days. So that's
Wow.
like, who knows how much longer, it'll still kill a mite that bites it for after 30 days. But if I
Yeah.
had any concern, I would just give it another dose.
Sure. I mean, you have to go through your vet to acquire that stuff, don't you?
You gotta order it from Australia.
Australia.
Yeah. Either like a pet mega store or a discount pet meds, which I order medication for my cats, like heartworm medication and flea medication from this same site. If anybody's looking for it, they can shoot me a message. But I think it's called Pet Megastore, and there's like I had no worries with like customs or anything like that on any of these medications that you would need a prescription for in the States.
We will talk after the episode.
Yeah, I mean it's like it's seriously like a especially if you can get like your for one, if you order it from Australia, it's way cheaper, even if you expedite it here, way cheaper than if you bought it from your vet.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Yeah.
And like I've heard that some people have gone to their vet and asked for it and been like, I'm gonna give this to my snakes, and have been denied it. But like this is this study that I'm talking about, is a credible study.
Yeah.
Like, if you went to a credible reptile vet, along with the study, and we're like, hey, this is the treatment that I'm looking to use. For one, it's super safe and super easy. Two, it won't cause, any risk of neurological issues from a spray.
Sure.
And I have given it to every single animal in my collection, with absolutely no issues. I've given it to 5 snakes that were gravid now with no issues.
Oh, wow.
Nothing. Yeah. And it's kind of like it's the consistency is probably not very different than like any other flea or tick medication that you get, like a Capstar or something. So it's got some like rigidity to it, but it's not like a hard pill. Like it's not like a Tylenol or something. So if you cut it with a razor blade, you can still like shave like really precise pieces off, and then cut that into smaller pieces, and it really does stay intact nicely. It's like honestly the best thing that's ever happened as far as mite treatment that I'm concerned of.
How is it administered?
So I feed all frozen thawed. So I'll take like say 6 or 10 feeders at a time, and all these animals are pretty similar size and weight. I'll cut my chunks up, and then right on the tip of the razor blade, put it right in the mouse or rat's mouth, and then just feed it.
Wow.
It is incredibly easy.
And then, sorry.
So that Janseni that came from the pet store had some mites on it, and I treated that thing next day. And once I realized it had mites, I put it on. I did end up putting it on paper because that animal had been captive for like almost 2 years already. So I was like, okay, I don't really want this thing getting mites anymore, and I wanted to see like like how effective this next guard would be at knocking them out, and they were dead everywhere inside that tub, and I never saw them again.
Wow. Mm-hmm. So I guess then my question would be, in an enclosure with, bedding, et cetera, the sky's falling, you got mites in there, you hit it with the next guard. Should you still got that enclosure out just to get all of the debris and all the other, or is it just going to take care of itself in one cycle of the mite lifespan?
Yeah. So a lot of people seem to think that like the life cycle of a mite is like super long, but it's like really super short. But they'll be like, I treated for them and they're still here, so the life
Yeah.
cycle must be longer. And it's like, well, no, you just didn't eradicate
Get
them
it.
all.
Yeah.
Right. But like all the studies that I have seen, and there's some really good ones out there that are unfortunately locked behind a paywall. But I can send them to you if you would like to see them. That like actually goes like really in depth about like the entire life cycle and like every single thing that happens over the course of that thing's life and under tropical conditions, which is like in an 80-degree tropical room that's 60 degrees. Like it can happen in like 15 days. It can go completely through from the egg hatching to being an adult and feeding on the snake in 15 days.
Yeah.
So even if you treated, your collection has mites, so you treat, and then you mark 30 days, and you can just go back and treat a second time, and then you're completely safe. There is no mite that is surviving in the corner of your room as long as you treat everything.
Yeah, sure.
There is absolutely no mites. Don't live 60 days. It's not something that happens.
Yeah.
They don't. As far as everything that I've come up with, there's no the thing stowed away in some dormant state. Like any research you do on it, like it's a fast life cycle creature. Like especially under optimal conditions, which maybe it would be a little slower if you were like, okay, only keeping Asian stuff in a room that was like 74, but also like high humidity is something that pushes that process along.
Oh, sure.
Also, so like if you have any sort of humidity, like it's honestly only a help to you, because the faster you can speed up the life cycle of the mite and get it to the point where it's feeding on your snake or trying to, the sooner it dies, and the sooner you break that cycle.
Wow. Yeah, I've heard of this before, but I've never done an in-depth look into it. But yeah, from everything that I've heard before and then everything that you just said now, I'm like, this seems to be like the game changer we were all looking for.
I mean, the study that I'm referring to, I want to say they did it, and it was like an infestation. Like these animals, like you could tell, like their eyes are like, sinking. Yeah, like I mean, it was bad from the pictures, and they achieved full eradication with 81 snakes with no treatment of the environment.
Wow.
It's like crazy, because like you think of some of these facilities that are like, man, they have these, fipronil resistant mites, or I can't think of another one of the classic chemicals off the top. Permethrin.
Permethrin, yeah.
Resistant mites, because they unsuccessfully tried to eradicate them for the past year.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, well now the mites don't really care. It's the same as if you use the same insect killer, around your house year after year. Like it gets less and less powerful. And even if you look at like the agricultural industry, like the chemicals they used 15 years ago, it's like, hey, they don't kill mosquitoes anymore.
Right. Yeah.
Right? Like they've got new stuff because the old stuff no longer works. But when you can knock them out right away and just treat the animal when it's in quarantine, which is like there's no harm, no foul with treating an animal with this that doesn't have mites.
Okay.
There was no effect to my animals feeding. They didn't like sometimes you'll see like if you do ivermectin was one of the ones that I was thinking of.
Yeah.
Even if you do like ivermectin treatments, like it like immediately pushes animals into shed, like all of them that you treat, from what I've experienced, which I'm not saying that's good or bad, but
with injectable or sprayed.
with injectables.
Injectable. Okay.
But the animal also isn't feeding, or may not be feeding if it's in shed. Probably shouldn't be feeding. It's a stressful process.
Yeah, sure.
But I mean, if you have an animal that has mites, keeping it eating is like okay. In terms of like disease prevention and just like overall health of the animal that is getting compromised by this pest. Like,
yeah.
Keeping it feeding and keeping it hydrated is definitely top priority in my book. So not having it go into shed immediately after that medication administered or anything funny like that. Like there has been nothing. It's just normal feeding, except for they have some medication in them.
Yeah, that definitely makes sense. Just some clarifying question. Finding information on this study, where can that be? Where can people find it?
I am going to
and I think I'll say in the meantime, I think Paul Dern and Adam on the Expert and the Idiot podcast did a really deep dive into this topic as well. So for anyone who wants to hear a really like long form conversation, I would definitely recommend checking that podcast out as well.
And other people that have, I hope I don't butcher her last name. Is it Lori Tarini? She's very well known in the Reynolds world.
Yeah, I don't want to butcher either.
Has some, I believe, has some content on her YouTube page.
Okay.
I think it's maybe it's Snake Sense.
Okay.
On YouTube, but also like Dan Malary is on the next guard. It's like I can see basically the entire industry going to it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's cheap, especially like I said, if you can go to your vet and get them to prescribe it to you, or order it from one of these out of country sites. It is really inexpensive, especially the treatment is 2.5 milligrams per kilogram. And
oh, wow. Okay.
like if you get the large dog dose, I think it's like 68 kilograms of the medication.
Yeah.
So I got the medium dog, which is like maybe half that, but essentially, I mean, you could, like, if you had some big snakes, like you could take that large dog one and treat quite a few of them with that, with that dose. I treated, with the medium dog one. Let me send you, do you have a way to put a link up in the,
if you were to go and comment it on the live stream on YouTube, I could put it up and people could see the link. Yeah.
Let me drop it in there right now, and then I'll also get the name of the website where I got it from. It's petsmegastore.com.au.
Okay.
But there's quite a few different sites, and if you just search up top NextGuard, and it's they have like a plus, NextGuard Plus. You just want the regular NextGuard.
Okay.
It's in a green box. At least the medium dog one is. Excuse me, the medium dog one is 68 milligrams of this medication. And I'm just gonna say, I'm not a vet. I'm not giving you medical advice. If you're not good with a calculator, if you haven't read the study, do both of those things
Yeah, for sure.
Double check your math, because I'm sure
Yeah.
you kill your animals rather quickly if you
Sure.
accidentally double or triple a medication.
Yeah, for sure.
But according to my math, one of those pills will treat 27 1,000-gram snakes.
Wow, that's a lot.
I mean, especially with colubrids.
Yeah, sure.
Definitely a little more if you're working with pythons. Yeah, and I think I got 6 of those tablets. Express shipped here for like $90.
Wow.
And I traded my entire collection and didn't even go through one.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Sheesh.
So definitely be careful with it, and get yourself a little micro scale, and all that good stuff. With the baby snakes, you really just have to eyeball it, because it's like quite literally nothing.
Yeah, sure.
But also, I would just go on the lighter end anyway. And if these mites are going to drop off if they're feeding on that snake in 24 hours.
Yeah. Wow.
24 hours, you're like, man, this thing still has mites on it. I would give it a little bit and then go back and up the dose just a little bit more.
Okay. Cool. Well, yeah, and then also for anyone who's obviously listening and is interested in this, definitely read the studies.
Yeah, the study outlines it really well. If you have an inexpensive vet that you go to, unfortunately, like all the ones around me are like that deal with reptiles are like office costs of $250 to get in. I'm like 15 minutes away from the UGA vet hospital.
Okay.
Fantastic if I ever have something crazy, but
Sure.
their office visit fee is $300.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
Yeah, totally crazy. But I think there's enough information in the community and enough success with it already that as long as you don't do anything crazy and just follow the guidelines that have already been proven, you shouldn't have any issues.
Yeah. Cool. Well, yeah, man, that's a super, interesting topic and something that could definitely be revolutionary within the industry. We're about at that halfway point of the show, so I'm going to cut to our commercials real quick.
Sweet.
So stick tight, everyone. We'll be back here in a few minutes.
Sorry for the interruption, folks, but a quick word from our sponsors. Green tree pythons, emerald tree boas, and plenty other arboreal snakes have been quite the popularity here at the Trap Talk Reptile Network, which brings me to today's sponsor, the Reptile Perch. Head over to the reptileperch.com and Reptile Perch on Instagram. See what type of design PVC perch is best for your arboreal reptile. But first and foremost, I would also check out David Brom's Green Tree Python availability on the website. And you can also check out his Instagram just to stay current on any projects or any productions that he posts. Thank you so much, David Broms, for your ongoing support. Looking forward to seeing what you have to show in the 2025 season. When you think about building a good community and being a leader of that community, nobody comes to mind better than Mark Hager over at Texas Chondros. That's right. Make sure you head over to TX Chondros on Instagram and also head over to Mark's website. See what he has available Green Tree Python wise and be ready for quite the 2025 Green Tree Python breeding season out of Mark Hager. He's a veteran in the Green Tree Python game, one of the best and nicest breeders in the Green Tree Python game. He's been putting on the whole state of Texas for as long as I've known him. So if you want to see all the amazing other chondro keepers out of the state of Texas, another good reason to go follow Mark Hager over at TX Chondros on Instagram. And again, head over to his website, texaschondros.com. You can find all the links in the description below. Thank you so much, Mark Hager, for supporting the trap. Cheers. Sorry for the interruption, folks, but a quick word from our sponsors.
Hi, I'm Devin.
I'm Teresa, and we are Pragmotors.
We are based in Czech Republic, a small country in the middle of Europe.
We really love animals that revolve around multi-recessive projects, and one of our very favorites is Hypo. We're really looking forward to clutches that are coming this season, and some of those are Hypo Clown, DG Clown, Hypo DG Clown, and one of our all-time favorites, Hypo Puzzle.
Hope you enjoyed the next episode on Trap Talk, the greatest reptile network in the world.
If you guys want to see next level cutting edge ball python projects, please make sure you head over to their Instagram to follow all their amazing work, and head over to their website to see what they could possibly have available by heading over to progmorphs.com. Thank you again, Devin and Teresa, for bringing some of the biggest heat worldwide in the ball python game. If you want to be organized, if you want to be cutting edge in the ball python game, then you don't want to miss this. Shout out to today's sponsor, and that's Clutch, #1 ball python organization app in the game. No better place to start off than by using this app. Clutch is an organization app that helps you organize all your ball python projects. It also helps your peers and your fellow community members look at what you possibly have coming for the upcoming ball python season, what you have currently available on MORPH Market. It's so awesome to be ahead of the game by using organization app like Clutch. Thank you so much, the entire Clutch team, amazing team over at Clutch. If I were you, I would head over to Clutch's Instagram account, and I would also head over to their website, try it out, see how it works for you, but especially if you're just now coming into this, before you build your reptile collection, I would do it organized, and I would do it with Clutch. Thank you, Clutch, for being so amazing. Excited to hear what Clutch has to bring in the near future. Chee!
Alrighty, we are back. So, continuing on the topic of the Janseni, I want to get into the breeding a little bit, because as you've alluded to a few times, you just had some eggs recently. So, what was the process like breeding your Janseni, and then I guess how do you have them set up for breeding?
So the Janseni was one of those animals that were in this room when I talked about not wanting to brumate this room or cool this room, because I had them in here and they were those animals were up to size, and I wanted to put them through the paces. So some of the biggest things that I found was creating a really significant wet season for them.
Okay.
And really got to feed them also. I think these like red-tailed green rat snakes, Janseni, things like the beauty snakes, like those animals are definitely capable of eating a lot of food, and there's a lot of food availability to them. Certain times of the year, and that comes with the rainy season. Whether it's frogs or small birds or rodents, which I think when we're talking Janseni, it's much more birds and amphibians, but it's hard to find any reliable information that like really goes into them.
Okay.
I just know that there's frogs and small birds that live in the same area as them. One thing that I did was go on iNaturalist, and when I keyed in on an area that's like, okay, somebody took a picture in this vicinity, then you can search, like, instead of just searching snakes in that small area, you search all animals.
Sure.
It's like, okay, well, there's actually a lizard, and there's like all these different frog species and all these different little bird species in that same general area. But like my normal feeding for an adult looks like an animal that's not breeding, like 2 medium mice a week or 2 day-old chicks.
Okay.
And I increased that to a third feeder, whether that was like 2 chicks and a mouse, 3 mice, 3 chicks.
Okay.
And then some of the weeks, the female really showed that like she wasn't stopping, and I just let her eat, because they'll definitely like right now, if I tried to feed her, like sometimes it'll be like, okay, you ate a small mouse, and I'll try to give her another, and she will not eat it at all.
Okay.
Like, if she ate the first one, she's back into her cork, she's done. other times, like she's hanging out and she's like, okay, like where's the food, buddy? Like that's all you're gonna feed me.
Yeah.
And there's not a whole lot of fat on a day-old chick, so I feel pretty good about her, eating quite a few of those.
Mhm.
Even the mice, like I have not seen like even on the male, like any point where it's like, oh man, you're getting a little chunky.
Sure.
They have really decent size poops, so it's like a lot comes out, so it like doesn't seem like they're retaining a whole lot of like extra.
Excess,
Yeah, like it just doesn't seem like they're retaining a whole lot, which I'm sure there are, because like all snakes in captivity seem to have like much larger fat reserves.
Sure.
But as far as like getting them into the breeding mode, like being sure I sprayed that enclosure every day, sometimes twice a day.
Okay.
And like I did not stop for like 4 months straight. I just absolutely hammered them.
Okay.
And I use a pretty thin layer of substrate. It's like maybe a ½ inch. And I found with the cypress mulch, like the nice thing about it is like you'll find that the water kind of like almost pools up around it, but it's got to be like sitting in the water for like a long time for it to like really soak in that moisture. Like when you get like a fresh bag of mulch, you're like, yeah, this is pretty damp.
Yeah, sure.
Been in there for a while. But if you start with a dry base of mulch and spray it heavy, like over the course of a day, like pretty much all that water evaporates, unless you're using like a layer that's like a couple inches thick. Like then you'll find that the bottom still has some moisture trapped in it, but basically soaking the enclosure down. Like I said, that was for like 3 or 4 months I did that.
Okay.
I have a like an article that I've been working on since I paired these guys up. I've tried not to give away like too much information, because it's like all in there. Like sometimes it's day by day. Like every shed is in there. I have every feeding recorded on a feed card.
Okay.
And then I think that's probably one of the biggest things if you were trying to breed them. It's like plenty of things will develop and grow follicles on like a once a week diet.
Yeah.
But these don't seem to be it in my limited experience. I think when that wet season comes, they eat often and they eat a lot, especially when you're talking about things like frogs. Not a whole lot on a frog.
Yeah.
Or like little bird. Like again, not a whole lot on it. So I mean, by the time that animal is 3 days into digestion, there's probably not a whole lot to feed those follicles in those meals. I didn't do any sort of like crazy like day after day feedings, but there was definitely weeks where I fed every 3 days.
Okay.
Most often it was like every 5 days.
Okay.
And I just let the female eat as much as she was going to eat. I just started with her first. That way, if she wanted to eat 1 or if she wanted to eat 4, like I would just move on to the next animal after she was done.
Okay.
And that seemed to work. Really well. The other guys that I know that are doing really well with red-tailed green rats and Janseni, like I think they're definitely putting more food to them. Also, I definitely know that Daniel, he's not really on social media as Daniel Snakes much anymore. He uses the page a little bit, but he's as far as I know, more Janseni clutches than anybody else. in the United States, that is. There's like quite a few people that have been successful in Europe and that are like pretty consistently successful. Yeah, and from what I see, like as far from like a colubrid standpoint, like they aren't just like your black rat snake. I'm just gonna feed it once a week. You know, it's gonna start growing follicles. I'm gonna feed it the next week. Like it's not just, they're not just gonna coast off that.
Sure.
That little food.
Yeah.
And in my experience, I even have another girl over here that I'm trying to breed also, and she does the same thing with the food refusal. Like sometimes she eats one, sometimes she eats three, and I don't push it at all. Like I shake it in front of her. I mean, they're pretty good eaters, especially when you get them feeding off tongs. So like if she's backed off and doesn't seem like she wants to eat anymore, I'm just like, okay, you're done.
Okay. So are there any signs you're looking for in these females where you know it's time to hit them with that wet season and with the increased food? Are you doing it seasonally where you're like, all right, by this date, I want to have them ready for that cycle? How are you doing that?
I am personally under the assumption that you can really pull that off at any time of year.
Okay.
You know, just depending on how your room works, and you know, I'm sure it's harder if it's, you know, freezing cold outside.
Sure.
But like Daniel, I can't remember. I think he's in Kansas, and I think he had you know, Janseni eggs dropping in January.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So he's definitely been able to kind of get them to go. I would say whenever that food intake is ramped up, there's some records of them producing like multiple clutches a year, and like not just double clutching, doing even more than that. More so like a red-tailed green rat would. I mean, you get a red tail that's putting out eggs. I mean, there's records of them doing 7 clutches a season.
Oh wow, I had no idea. That's crazy.
I mean, but some of the other Asian stuff does like wild amounts of
Yeah.
Sure. I mean, they'll damn near kill themselves. Like some of the
trinket snakes and stuff like that.
Yeah, the radiated rats, the copper rats, like they'll dump eggs as many as you let them.
Yeah.
Which it's like, it's not surprising why they can, you know, import so many red-tailed green rat snakes. It's, well, when you have an animal that lays 7 clutches a year, and it's found in so many different places, that also helps.
Yeah.
The Janseni are endemic to Sulawesi.
Yeah.
But yeah, a very similar animal to that. Like, I'm excited for some of these guys, like Jared Snake Room, and like California Breeder Union, to get on these Janseni, because I mean they put out red tails, and I think if they treat them similarly, we'll have a lot more Janseni around.
Yeah. Oh, most certainly.
Which we really need, because that island is in like a dire situation with their I think it's palm oil that they're farming over there, and I think they've already deforested 3/4 of the entire island.
Jeez.
And it's only like I think like I did the conversion once from like, you know, hectares of Sulawesi to you know, Florida, converted into hectares, because I was trying to see what like the deforestation equivalency
Hmm.
was, if you will. And like I think Sulawesi is only like a third larger than Florida. And
Okay.
they've already deforested 3/4 of it.
Jeez.
Like, yeah, like it's not looking good. Luckily, from what I've gathered, those deforested areas are more like lowland areas, and
Okay.
most of the wildlife, I mean, it might be by necessity, but they're like more up in like the highland
Yeah.
areas, if you will.
Sure.
It seems just like not as good of a place for them to farm, or harder to access.
Sure.
Sorry, my throat is like super dry.
No worries. Yeah, no, that definitely makes sense. And then hopefully that is just like a natural barrier where they don't continue to expand, because just the logistics of farming on the mountains or whatever just isn't practical.
Exactly, but like all the lowland areas that they've been able to compromise, they have done so.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's terrible. Yeah, hate to see it. My God. But luckily a decent amount of, I mean, you can't say luckily is not maybe not the right word, but a decent amount of reptiles from Sulawesi are represented enough in the hobby to where we're probably going to be able to keep them around for the long run. So
Yeah, I mean, even if no more ever came in, like there's still more Janseni in the country than entire, lineages that run 20 years long, than there are of like those species. Like when you look at some of the Australian stuff, it's like, oh, this entire project stems from 7 animals. It's like, okay, well, I have 5 Janseni here, like by myself. Like, we're already doing a little bit better.
No, absolutely. So what size are your enclosures, and then do you keep them individually or cohabbed?
So right now I have the pair that produced is in a 6'2", 6 long, 2 deep, 3 tall. That's this one right above me here.
Cool.
Then I have that first female that I got that's like 5 years old. She's in a 4'2", all by herself.
Okay.
They seem to be decently slow growing snakes, because I wouldn't say that I've like held back food from her or like fed her too little. They seem to just take a while to grow, whereas like I have some red-tailed green rats that I got at the same size that are like, outpacing her 2 years later. Like, yeah, so they don't seem to be like a super fast growing species. I mean, I think she'll probably be 5 foot long at 5 years old, where it's like, I mean, you'd have pretty decent sized red-tailed green rat most of the time at that age. And it's a pretty comparable size animal, I'd say. I'd say like any import red tail that you've done. I mean, I have a male right here that's gotta be like 7 feet long. So I think they're like pretty similar in like size and body structure, but the Janseni just seem to grow like a little bit smaller, slower. A little bit slower.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I have some. I have a captive hatched pair that's waiting for me in California for Dan to get over here in June. So I'm curious to get those. And be able to see for myself a little bit more of how fast they're going to grow compared to that one that's like 4.5 years old. And when I hatch these, I want to, be able to really see, like, maybe I did feed this one. Maybe I could have pushed her a little bit harder on meal size or whatnot. She would have, gone up the size a little bit.
Yeah.
But, like maybe 5 years is just what it takes.
Sure.
So,
Yeah. Okay. That's interesting. So are Gonyosoma in general slower to mature than other colubrids?
I wouldn't say slower to mature. Like red tails definitely seem like they can grow quick. Like
Yeah.
man, you get one that wants to eat. I've had some little ones here myself. I have some ones that I got at Daytona a few years ago that are probably like 4 foot now, and that was
Okay.
only like this Daytona coming up. I think will be 3 years that I've had those. Yeah, it's like if we're gonna call, yeah, those are the only two that would even. I don't like talking about like rhinos. We talk about Gonyosoma because they're
They're
a
so
completely
different.
animal.
Yeah.
Like you're better off having a rhino conversation and a persimmon conversation and a range rat. Like
Sure.
those are better animals to talk about together.
Yeah, for sure.
Like I try to just talk about red tails and
Janseni.
it's like
That makes sense.
true Gonyosoma.
Yeah.
Sure. Well, rhino rats are reclassified.
Yeah.
They're at a Gonyosoma now. But yeah.
Yeah. No, that doesn't
They
make sense.
belong in that conversation.
Yeah, 100%. Cool. I mean, shoot, do you think there's anything else on the topic of I guess Janseni and red tails that we haven't really touched on that we should?
There's, I think, in the coming years, there's gonna like the availability for captive stock is really going to increase.
That's good.
Like Buddy Daniel, I think 2 days ago, just had his second clutch of the season pip. So they're working their way out. Hopefully,
Cool.
hopefully I'll be able to get a female or two from that. I've been waiting a couple of years. But
Nice.
definitely still trying to grow my group. And like, if you're interested in red-tailed green rats, like Jared Snake Room or California Breeder Union, like those are two great guys. And like going back to what you've said before, you did when you did that solo episode. Like, sure, you can go for the imports. Like, I'm not telling you not to.
Yeah.
I have found that red-tailed green rats are exponentially harder than Janseni. Red tails love to die. They love to, I swear to you, man, it's like their favorite thing to do. Like,
nice.
yeah. That's why I have a large lone male here, because the female looked perfectly fine, and I pulled the tub open and she was drowned in the water bowl, or died with her head in the water bowl. Like, seemed fine. I had like no concerns, but I probably was like, "Oh, you're doing pretty good," and she's like, "Oh yeah, watch this."
Yeah. Right. Jeez.
Yeah, and just like the Janseni seem like you can keep them a little bit calmer as far as like keeping them from freaking out, but like red tails can just be like off the chains, just absolutely crazy, man. Like whenever I'm like screaming curse words in here, it's like probably because they've tried to kill me. They're something else. But if you can't get captives, go for the smallest animals that you can possibly get.
Okay.
And it's like, what I was saying about that solo episode that you did. Well, there's the end of my light cycle. You can try to go for those imports, and you might fight them for 3 years before they're like even remotely going to give you eggs. Or you get those animals that are a year old, and put the time in and really get them super solid. And you might be 4 years later, you may very well be in the same exact position as if you bought the adults.
Sure.
And yeah. I would say that's the case, probably the case with like most of the import Asian stuff.
Yeah.
Smaller you can get it, the better.
Does it seem like the captive bred red tails have a calmer demeanor than the wild caughts, or do you think that's just like a species thing?
I think it's just a species thing. 'Cause
Yeah.
I have a captive male that Jared sent me, and like it'll sit out, like it's sitting out right now. For like the second you open that tub, like the second it knows, like, oh, you're going to change the water, you're going to spot clean.
Yeah.
It just goes crazy.
Uh,
The Jansen and I don't really do that. They'll more like, okay, if they're in a position in the cage where it's just like, okay, they can like dip down to like a quick escape, don't like leisurely dip away. But it's like the red tails seem like, I mean, they're just like gone.
yeah. Okay. Yeah. No, I mean, some species are just like that, and no amount of, getting them established or multi-generations will get that out of them. But
Yeah,
they're beautiful, all right.
it'll be interesting to see, like, once we get some like true, like I think a couple guys have some F2 stuff, but like,
Yeah.
what is F3, F4 of, like, especially coming from people that have a reputation of doing their best to not stress the animals out, generations before. I just wonder if that's going to have any effect on like generations after. It may
Sure.
not, but it could.
Yeah. I guess time will tell on that one.
Right.
So I want to pivot a little bit to another species you keep that it's been one that I like. I feel like I've been back and forth and like have avoided picking up 4 or 5 times, and that is the Japanese rat snake.
Dude.
So tell me about your Japanese rat snakes.
They are one of the best snakes to keep. They are like so fun and so curious. I was like I wouldn't call it a hater, but I was just like, yeah, it's a 2-foot green snake. Like,
Yeah.
dude, they are like the coolest freaking things out there. Unfortunately, this was the first time breeding for this female, and I got a nice chunk of slugs.
Lovely. Yeah.
Yeah, but hopefully next year they'll come around and be fertile. But like, they are one of those snakes that I wish I had got sooner. They are like,
Okay.
I relate them to North American rats, like black rats are like a couple weeks ago I caught like a 2-foot black rat, and I was just looking at the thing. I was like, you are literally a North American Japanese rat snake.
Yeah.
Like they're kind of getting a little flighty off and around in the cage right now because the male is still chasing that girl.
Okay.
But like, man, for the most part, they're like sit on top of each other, just like leisurely make their way around the cage. They
Cool.
come out easy. They eat every single time. They don't get large.
Yeah.
A friend of mine actually gave me this pair,
Oh, cool.
and man, I just wish I got them sooner. I wish I wasn't such a hater.
How big are-
And like, not that it was like a hater thing. There was just like so many other things that I was like, I thought I was more curious and like more interested in until I got these. I'm like, oh, you are really freaking awesome, and it's nice to not
Sure.
get. It's nice to have something like with so much personality in this small little package.
Yeah. How big are your adults?
They're probably like 28, maybe 30 inches.
Okay.
Yeah. May have some of that Kunashir influence, smaller, locality to them. I think
Yeah.
that's probably the case with a lot of stuff
Sure.
that's in the hobby. Because you'll see there's definitely jab rats that are like, oh, you're 4 foot long, but
Right. Yeah.
I don't call these Kudashir or anything like that. Like, they're just jab rats to me. I can't see them. I mean, they're 2021s, so I mean they're decently old.
Yeah.
And they eat like a North American rat snake, essentially. Like, they're not afraid to take a decent size
Yeah.
meal every 7 to 10 days. But I just can't see them getting 4 foot.
Okay.
I can see them getting maybe 3 feet. And,
Yeah.
get to the point where they're like the thickness of like a highlighter, like a regular, like an expo marker.
Yeah. Wow.
But like those Kudashirs, like the true ones that you see are pretty small.
Yeah. Sure. Which population is the albino gene present in naturally?
I think it's I guess what you would call the mainland.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
Pretty
Yeah.
sure.
Because I've always found those really interesting. Like I
Yeah.
feel like I'd want to have like an albino and a het albino pair and be able to produce both.
Yeah, because actually Zirkle just did a nice write up on their Facebook page.
Oh, cool.
And I do remember him saying that there's no such thing as an albino Kudashir.
Pretty sure. Okay. Got it.
A cross, if you will.
Yeah, for sure.
I think that there's definitely something, a phenotypic difference, whether it's a subspecies or just an island locality difference. They're definitely different.
For sure. Do they need to be kept cooler than majority of colubrids, given their more northern ranging nature?
Mine seem to do totally fine. I actually, somebody messaged me earlier today, and they were doing some research on them and finding that people were letting them bask at like 85, and then I did some Googling, and people are letting them get like 85, and I personally do not do that. I run them just ambient in the room, and then they have like they're currently in a 2 foot cube with a 1 foot T5 fixture. And that T5 fixture, 6-8 inches away, puts off enough heat that if they want anything, they just get right up to that thing.
Okay. Got it.
I don't offer them any other heat. And I definitely know people that are keeping them cooler than I am, like 75 most of the time.
Yeah, because I feel like I've heard that with some of the more northern Asian species. I mean, like those, the Korean rats, Russian rats, stuff like that they need to be kept a little bit cooler. So it's always just been something I wouldn't want to get into those if I wasn't able to keep them at those cooler temperatures.
Right.
If it was like 100% necessary for them. So, okay, that's good to know that yours are kind of at the same general parameters that you have your other stuff at.
I basically run them exactly how I run the rhino rats.
Okay.
They're pretty much the same.
Cool.
Which is like a daytime temps. I'm shooting for like 77 degrees.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's not bad at all.
No.
So yeah, let's talk about the rhino rats for a little bit too. Now that kind of natural segue there. So yeah, man, tell me about your project with the rhino rats. It's another species, like many of these, that I'm like, I've thought they're badass forever, and I've just never gotten into them for one reason or another.
Dude, they are right. That like overall species wise, the Janseni are my favorite snake out there. I like bigger snakes. I love the colors. I love the pattern change on Janseni.
For sure.
But rhino rats, they're so calm. They're so beautiful. And like my favorite thing about them is they are out all the time. Like there's no hiding in my experience with a rhino rat. I have let's see. I just have one little one in here right now in a critter keeper. But then out in my living room, I have a 424 that has just a pair in it currently. And then I have 5 2-foot cubes that all have rhinos in them.
Okay.
And every single one of those snakes is perched up at the front of the enclosure.
Nice.
So either on some branches or inside a cork tube. Like it's so fun to have a snake that like you don't have to like search around the cage for, or it's like, great, again, you're sitting down in the ground hide.
Yeah.
Like, where I can't see you. And it's like, man, those snakes are just so fun. I think everybody should have, like, even if you're doing like other stuff, like if you have like a 75, 77 degree ambient living room, put a rhino in there. Like, you won't regret it.
The one thing that I feel like I've heard that has kind of deterred me slightly from them is that babies can be really difficult to establish and get feeding. Is there validity to that?
I have not hatched any yet. I have some eggs in the incubator, 6 eggs.
That's awesome.
Yeah. The first pair that I ever bought were like little babies.
Okay.
And this was the second species that I got into after getting into Asian rats. And I got blue beauties first. So I went from a snake that was very happy to eat all the time to the rhinos didn't eat for me for 13 weeks after they arrived. And I was like freaking out, man. Because these things are like truly smaller than the average shoelace. They are really small. I have a let me show you this one right here that I
already.
Yeah. So this is kind of how I anything new that I get. Again, these snakes are tiny. This is what I'm going with. They can also like damn near get out of anything. And the first time you lose one, it's like, okay, I'm going to make sure, which happened, gone forever, make sure it never happens again.
Yeah.
So I take these critter keepers and I hot glue the door shut on top.
Okay.
I just pop the lid off completely because the lids are generally tight enough on these that there's like no concern.
Sure.
And this is one that eats for me no issue and was born in August. And it's still, compared to my pointer finger here.
Wow.
Yeah, and this thing is eating right now 2 mice pinkies at a time.
Okay.
It is still, just teeny, man.
Yeah.
Which it's like really nice because you don't have to provide them with a whole lot of room.
Sure.
Actually, before I went to the critter keepers, I was using like the I think they're like 128 quart round deli cups. Like they're really big, like
the 90 diameter or whatever. Yeah.
And those worked really well also, except the lids wear out after a while of like
on and off. Yeah.
Taking the lid off,
Yep.
a couple times a week for a month, and it was like, okay, this thing actually isn't on that tight anymore.
Yeah, for sure.
And I just set the babies up with one of those micro or nano Reptile Basics hides, the smallest one that they make.
Okay.
Little humidity hide. An artificial plant really seems to help. Like the entire plant, that's like a I don't know, like a 16-inch plant that's inside that cage. And just like jam the entire thing in there. And what I've been doing. So this is this will be like the 10th little one that I've raised.
Okay.
And they've pretty much all come from different people, and I just drop feed, like whether they're eating when they're come in, whether they're taking pinks out of a water dish, whether they're eating rosy reds, whether they're taking off tongue. I just drop feed them.
Okay.
Just right in front of the hide for the first meal, and I do it at night, and a vast majority of the time that works pretty well for me.
Okay.
Yeah. They I found that, like, especially if you're buying, like, not talking about getting them established out of the egg, but if you were to just like get a baby from somebody else that it's tongue feeding with them, blah blah blah. I've had more success just going for the drop feed for the first few feeds and kind of letting it settle in, to my room parameters, to my house,
Right.
and then I'll just try the tongue feed later, because if it's gonna tongue feed the first time, it'll do fine just drop feeding and tongue feeding the fifth time.
Yeah.
To me, it's all the same thing as long as the snake eats. Like,
do you find that they hit a certain size and then they're just like solid on food, or is it kind of on an individual by individual basis of when you're like, all right, this thing is good now. It's eating rodents for me. I don't need to worry about it anymore.
Dude, once they're eating, like they don't really stop.
Okay.
It's like the if we're gonna call it like, which I think there is a level of learning how to eat frozen thawed mice, because I personally think a majority of their diet when they're babies is tadpoles. If I had to draw like any conclusions, like it's tadpoles.
Okay.
Like, and if you ever gone to like a little creek or stream or pond, like the movement of those things and the wiggle of them, like I can easily see that triggering them, or even like even like small minnows. But the problem with the minnows, especially getting like commercially farmed, like rosy reds in particular, is the nematodes. Like, you feed one wrong rosy red and you now have a worm coming out the side of your rhino rat.
No.
Like, I had a little baby that came in from Europe that had a well, it was a small bump on the side when it arrived to me, just like almost like a pimple. Like, within a matter of days, there was like a worm wiggling out of his side. I was like, oh my god. It was a nematode from eating fish.
Jeez.
Yeah. And when you're dealing with a snake that's for that small, man, like, I'm not trying to worm this thing or do like any.
Yeah, seriously.
And like that being said, I have fed plenty of rosy reds, but like I would say if you're going to get rosy reds, go for like a higher end aquarium store that like knows a little bit more about like what they're doing with their water quality than like a PetSmart or Petco or some place that might just have, I don't want to say like lower standards. I would just go to a place that knows more about like what they're dealing with.
For sure.
You can also go with something like a captive, born in the United States, like Molly or something like that. That would also be a pretty good choice.
Okay.
They can be expensive. Like, I mean, you might pay $4 a fish.
Yeah.
Like when I think I paid 33 cents for a Rosie.
Yeah, for sure.
My goal is also to, like, as few fish as possible. That's why I drop feed everything. It doesn't matter if it was feeding on Rosies with the seller. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what it's doing, because I've had it that way where they've been like, this snake hasn't eaten a single pinky.
Yeah, yeah.
I drop feed it 2 days later, and it's like, oh, you ate, and then you ate every time after that. I think it just depends animal to animal.
Yeah.
There's also some other techniques, like I use, like, all my little water dishes are like a now I'm gonna blank on the name. They're made for, like, baking. You do like
little souffle dishes or whatever.
Yeah, that's it. I do the white ones, and if you get, like, a long enough pair of tongs and that snake is in the water dish, which a lot of the times as babies they are.
Okay.
If you just go and shake that pinky in the water dish as if it's a fish, for the ones that are only eating fish.
Yeah.
Like, I wouldn't say, like, I'm not going to say it's like, 90% of the time, but when you're working with a snake like this small and, like, that can be this finicky, like, if it does it 30% of the time, 40% of the time, like, I would, in like, this is my plan if I'm able to hatch these rhinos out this year, is, like let them go a little bit longer than I generally would when they come out of the egg. And, if I have to put every snake in the water dish and then, come back 10 minutes later, you're still in the water dish and I'm going to shake this pinky.
Yeah.
I would rather that than go to, like, a fish feeding after.
Okay.
But, like, that's not to say, like, there's plenty of animals where it's like you need a fish or you need a tadpole. Or it's just not going to eat.
Sure. Yeah, no, that definitely makes sense. Yeah, I guess it can, can throw a little bit of a wrench in the plan, but if it's a species that you're that passionate about, getting a fish or two every now and then is not that big of a deal.
Right. And it's also one of the nice things about them is they command a little bit higher price because they
sure,
command more work than some other things. So it's like, if you can get these techniques down and, in the years that you work with them, make those initial feedings, that establishment easier, like, still command that, higher price tag that they have, especially after COVID, man. Like, I got some significantly cheaper.
Sure.
I guess it was like beginning of COVID, but then, like, I was seeing, like, all these posts, like, I'm looking for rhino rats, and then, like,
yeah,
there was like 10 on MORPH Market, and then they were, like, gone, and it was, like, dry for, like, months and months and months. And then you'd see, like, babies pop up, and they were like $800 a piece for a male.
Yeah.
It's like, man, it's like some people were, getting what they asked every time for all of those babies, because, like, people really wanted one.
Yeah, I mean, that's awesome, man. Can't complain about that.
I know it.
Yeah.
And, like, one of the nice, like, I pretty much only feed my adults hopper mice, and, like, if you brumate these snakes, if you from taking them off food through brumation to, like, getting them back up to temps, if you don't feed them for 16 weeks, you got like, God, math isn't my strong suit, but 30 something weeks that you're feeding this animal, 75-cent hopper mice for, and they really don't need anything more than that. Like, they don't need to eat big. They really are slender snakes. Like, most of my adults, even if they're 4-foot males, they're like a little bit thicker than a Sharpie.
Oh wow.
Yeah,
I've seen some monster rhino rats done,
dude. Yeah, you can definitely get anything. You can get say you can get a blue beauty, absolutely massive. You can get a king rat, absolutely massive. You can get a jack rat, absolutely massive. But it's like, in my opinion, from what I see, and I have I think 4.7 right now.
Okay.
And 9 of those are like adults, or like 4-year-old plus animals. And they're like pretty much all the same size. And I actually used to feed larger meals until it was Rob Stone. He's like hopper mice. Just feed him hopper mice.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, sure. If I'm trying to breed the female, like maybe she'll get 2, but like they'll also eat 7 days a week if you let them. It's like, sure, you will have a gigantic rhino rat snake for sure. Like, but like, I don't want to see like virtually any scale separation on them. Like to me, they should be like a pretty uniform green, where like all the scales sit like,
that makes sense,
like perfectly together.
Yeah.
And that's I have heard about some monstrous animals. I've heard about some animals that weigh 3 times what my adult males do. And it's like, like to each their own, but like I'm not going to keep my stuff like that. And like if it's 4 foot long and 4 years and breeds and lays healthy eggs and does all the things, like that's good for me.
Yeah.
And like if you look at the limited amount of pictures, I mean, there's definitely more pictures of them coming out now, especially with like all the herping excursions that are like blowing up all over the place. Like there's definitely been more pictures to come of them recently, but they are very, very thin snakes. Like my animals are probably bigger. Like, honestly, than some of this wild stuff. Like they're very small.
Yeah. I mean, makes sense. So yeah. PSA to rhino rat keepers out there, slow down.
Yeah, and like they don't even need to be like that big. Like, I don't want to say old, because somebody's gonna take that the wrong way. But there's been like numerous accounts of 2-year-old animals, that lay perfectly good, 8, 10 egg clutches.
Yeah.
Which is like, hell, my girl was 4 and I got 6 eggs. So this animal, half the age, laid more than double. So I think like you could be like almost shooting yourself in the foot, like by pushing them, especially on a species like, I'm sure like fat builds up like really, really well on those thin animals, and then like come to think of it, my girl that's 5 slugged out. So it's like, man, what's going on there. Would it have been better if I, paired her at 3? Like maybe it's like, oh man, maybe you are a little bit on the chunky side or something. When my I actually have another gravid girl now that's
Okay,
like
cool.
Late 2021, I think.
Okay.
It is probably 3 foot, but like the eggs aren't even like long. They're not, they're not that they really could be because snakes are so small. But like she laid them and I was like, these are actually like really, really tiny.
Okay.
Like, which makes sense because the snakes are really, really tiny when they hatch out.
Yeah.
And even so, they have to fill like every bit of that egg. Like, I'm sure of it.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it's like in my experience, really one of those snakes that like they grow really, really steady on like once they're like 18 months old, pop them or just fuzzy mice until it's like, okay, the fuzzy mouse is like really not cutting it anymore. Like,
sure,
you can't even really see the thing inside you. I'm going to up you to a hopper. But again, makes sense for an animal that's primarily eating, fish and frogs.
Yeah, sure.
I have searched high and low on INAT, and there is no rodent that is even remotely small enough to be eaten by a rhino rat.
Okay.
There's a lot of different organisms on there in those areas.
Sure.
There's nothing. There's nothing local to those areas. Like it's fish and frogs.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Makes sense. Definitely makes sense. Cool, man. Well, yeah, we're just over that 2-hour mark. I feel like there's definitely a round 2 necessary here because I didn't even get through like half of the bullet points I had written down.
Jeez.
But
I've been told I can talk. I think I hit Joe Colubrid Corruption, his longest podcast. So and I felt like I could go on with him for like another 2 hours.
Yep. Those are always the best ones. So yeah, we definitely got to do this again at some point. But for everyone who is watching and listening, who wants to keep up with what you're doing, where can they find you on social media and whatnot?
I'm really trying to just do the Instagram now. Like if you have a question, Instagram. I recently found like my Facebook message requests, and I had like unanswered messages from like 3 years ago, and like
That'll get you.
I messaged a couple people back, and they're like, "Dude, I don't even keep snakes anymore." So yeah. Plus, like, I'll definitely do like don't mind accepting people's like friend requests on Facebook or whatnot. Like if you have questions and you want me to like get back to them in a timely manner, like Instagram is definitely the spot.
Cool. All right. So yeah, more than Morelia on Instagram.
Yes, sir.
All right. Cool, man. Well, thank you so much for your time tonight. This was a really awesome conversation. And yeah, I really enjoyed it. And I know that a lot of people are going to get a lot out of this conversation as well.
I hope so. That round 2, hopefully if I get these Janseni hatching out, we'll have I would love to go through that whole article I was telling you about.
Yeah. Dude, absolutely. I'm 100% game for that.
Well, awesome. Thanks for having me on, dude.
Yeah, man. Absolutely. So I'll close out the show. But once again, dude, thank you so much for your time tonight. This was a great conversation.
Appreciate it.
All righty. All right, everybody. Thank you for checking out that episode. Once again, if you're here on YouTube, please subscribe to the channel. New podcast every single day of the week. For me, you can find me on Instagram at scrubshepherd, Stephen Kush on Facebook, Stephen Kush, or at Kush Reptile on YouTube as well. I drop a new vlog style video every single Friday on the channel. You can also find me at Kush Reptile on MORPH Market. And of course, I am here every Wednesday on the Trap Talk Reptile Network. So thank you everybody for tuning into this episode. Check you all back here next week for a new one.